This is an interesting story because it wasn't reported anywhere else. This is information I happened to get access to, and I think I can safely say I broke this story, and I broke it because I found it super interesting what was going on. You may know right now that if, let's say, there's a public school district where you live, obviously they need the buildings during the school year, during the school days. But what happens on weekends? Because a lot of these buildings have these amazing spaces inside, but they're not being used because it's a Saturday, it's a Sunday, it's after school. So local groups are allowed to rent out like the auditorium or the gymnasium or the cafeteria. And every district has like the paperwork you need to fill out if you're interested in renting it out. You have to pay a rental fee to the district. If you're a church, for example, a lot of churches that don't have the money to buy their own buildings, they rent out like an auditorium at a local high school. That happens where I live all the time. They do that. They pay a rental fee. They're allowed to put signs outside, but only during certain hours, like not during the school days, obviously. Like every district has rules about this. They also have like a rate sheet so you know how much it costs to rent. Okay, that's what this story is about because there's nothing illegal about churches renting space from a local school as long as they follow the rules and as long as those spaces are available to anyone in a fair way. So what I found out is that there is a public school district in Arizona that seems to be giving a sweetheart deal to a local church to the point that it's such a good rate that they are giving that church that it's got to be costing taxpayers money. And that is disturbing. Okay. All of this takes place in a town called Black Canyon City. It's about 20 miles north of Phoenix. And it's such a small community, very rural town. I think it's about 3,000 people total. And they have one school. It's called Cañon, Canon, but Cañon Elementary School that serves kindergarten through 8th grade. And last year, they only had 131 students total. So, like, what is that? Like 20 kids? That's too much. 20 people per class, if that. It's a very small school, which also means when you have a school that tiny, their school board doesn't get a lot of attention. But it's a public school. So all the rules that apply to public schools apply to this place. And so when I looked it up, this is what I saw. Like this district has a rental agreement, a request for use of school facilities. And this is the paperwork that any group has to fill out. Like, what days do you want it? Will there be an admission charge? Because if there's an admission charge, you may have to give some of that money to the school district. The rental fee will include custodial or school personnel services, utility costs, equipment use fees. Who can we contact in case of an emergency? All of this is normal, right? Nothing weird about that contract. I also wanted to look up what a neighboring school district did because it was bigger, so it had much more a formality to the paperwork. And just look at this. This is a local school district nearby. This is their facility rental fees for the following school year, next school year. And they break it down class 1, class 2, class 3, depending on what type of group wants to rent it out. But I think a church in this case is class 2. And so if you do this, look at this. Like, let's say I want to rent out the high school auditorium. All right. It's at the bottom right here. It's $58. I think that's per hour, $58 an hour. You also have to pay a $60.50 utility fee. That might be per hour. You might have to pay a $35 per hour custodial fee. But this is what we're talking about. So if you are a church and you're trying to rent out an auditorium at this high school for several hours, it could set you back a few $100. But that's probably cheaper than trying to buy your own building. So a lot of churches do that. Even if that's a flat fee, we're still talking a couple $100. So this is what they're doing at a neighboring school district. Okay. So that's the first thing you need to know about this. And again, what are you paying for? You are paying for the use of the space, that's rental, the lights and electricity you got to use, the bathrooms that need to be cleaned, the water, the heating and air conditioning. It's Arizona. It's outside of Phoenix. You know they go through air conditioning. And the district has to be compensated for all that, as well as wear and tear. Okay. So here's the interesting thing. At this school, Cañon Elementary, what I saw is that their contract is a little different. This is all they had in their contract. Check this out. If you want to rent their space, because they only really have one space, look at this. General use fee, $12.50 per hour. Kitchen facilities, $20 an hour. Sound system, $15 per session. That's it. Those are nothing. Those are nothing. If you're a school renting out this space, that's so low. Like you would be making what? $50 an hour for a group using this space. Let's do some back of the envelope math here. If a church, you wanted to rent that space for 5 hours on a Sunday and 3.5 hours on a Wednesday, and I'm not just pulling those numbers out of my ass, these are the numbers a local church wanted to use it for. If you did that, that would amount to an average of about $53 per service. Nothing. It's so low. And if the church holds those two services for 49 weeks a year, that amounts to about $5,200 that they would have to pay to the district for the entire year. That makes sense? And $5,200 for the year for renting that space and all that they would be using, that's nothing. That is so low. Well, guess what? Even though that's what the contract says, okay, I mean, if that's what the school wants, fine. But that's what the Family Church BCC, Black Canyon City, should have been paying for that space because they rented the elementary school's gymnasium and an attached room for those times. What I got a copy of was their actual contract because guess what? They were not paying $53 an hour, which also would have been a steal. Guess how much they were paying? Let me show you this contract. Here we go. This lease agreement, it is understood. All you care about is the handwriting. Look at this handwriting. What's the charge? $5 a day. And they wanted to use this for 49 weeks, 2 times a week, so it's 98 days. $5 a day for 98 days. That comes out to $490 total. That's it. It's like $1 an hour. And by the way, you know what else I got a copy of? I got a copy of the damn check. They paid this church facility use. Family Church BCC sent the Cañon Elementary School District $490 for all of 2024. So they're paying $5 a service. And again, the point of why that's disturbing, if it's not obvious, in the contract, by the way, it said they will use their own sound equipment. Fine. They said they will clean the bathrooms, which is fine, but also I don't know if I trust, some random church worker to do what a custodian knows how to do. But also, even regardless of that, they are using electricity, water, trash, air conditioning. It is hard to believe that $5 a service makes up for what the district is losing by giving them that cheap rental fee. And by the way, elsewhere on the district's website, they point out how they are a cash-strapped district. And a lot of school districts do this where they say, listen, our district is excellent because we don't get a lot of resources, but boy, do we make a lot of good use out of them, right? Like property taxes here are low, but look at what we do with that. And at this school, they say we're cash-strapped. Well, guess what? I know a way you could be making a lot more money. Because remember, they should be getting $5,200 a year from this church. They are getting under $500. Why the hell would the district agree to that deal? Well, guess what else I found out? It turns out the school board president, her name is Jeannie Glover, she also happens to be, guess who? The school board president is also the pastor's wife. Here she is speaking at the church very recently. They are in the school's gymnasium. You can even see on your left, the school's mascot painted on the gymnasium wall. Like she's the school board president / her husband is the pastor, and she also works in an administrative capacity for the church. Did that have anything to do with it? I don't know, but that seems shady. I did ask for comment. I did not receive a comment. Now, the reason, one thing I want to say about all this is I also received a letter. The reason I know about a lot of this is because I received a letter from some concerned taxpayers because they wrote a letter dated July 24th Basically, it was sent to the school board. It was sent to the administration. It was sent to, I think, the local like sheriff's office as well. Basically saying everything I just told you. Like, what the hell is going on? Why is this church getting a sweetheart deal? You could see what it says here. The family church paid $490, but they should have paid $5,206.25. And look at the last line here. Right over here. This is a staggering figure reflecting a deficit of $18,856 over the 4 years they have been using this gymnasium. The school district has been hosting this church for 4 years, and they should have been making nearly $20,000. They missed out on like all of it. What the hell is going on there? So they sent this letter to everybody. They want answers. I don't know if they've gotten a response yet. But what this means is that taxpayers are effectively subsidizing this church thousands of dollars a year. And who doesn't get that money? That $20,000 that should be the district's. Who gets screwed over because the district isn't getting that money? It's the kids. Because that's money that could be used to hire another staffer part-time. I mean, I hope part-time. Or get kids more resources, and they're not getting that money, so they can't spend it. The taxpayers, the concerned taxpayers, also say that this subsidy amounts to a violation of Arizona's constitution because the state constitution says public money cannot fund religious worship. And they ask the board to take steps to fix this problem. They say, raise the rent on the church, like immediately, so they pay what everyone else has to pay. The church needs to reimburse the school district for all this money they haven't been paying. They also want the church to stop using the school's email address as their own. I had to look this up, but guess what? If I go to the church's website, look at the very bottom there. Every Sunday morning at 10 a.m., that address that they give on their website, that's the school's gymnasium's address. That's the school address. So, like, that also means that when mail comes into the church, someone working for the school district has to see it and sort it out. Why is that the district's job to do? Right? Like, you don't live there? Why is that your address? So all of these are very reasonable requests. I think it's appalling the district is letting the church take advantage of them like this. I emailed all these people involved days ago for a response. No one's responded to me. Here's what I would like to know. Is any other group receiving this reduced $5 a day rate? I don't know the answer to that. Like the best case scenario would be that everybody gets a $5 a day rate, but that would be fiscally irresponsible, and I hope they're not doing that. The worst case scenario is that only the church is paying that amount, which could lead to a lawsuit. I did ask some lawyer friends, like, hey, this is shady, right? And Americans United for Separation of Church and State said, quote, at first glance, this looks like Cañon Elementary School District is likely giving the church special treatment, but they needed more information, which I just told you. Yes, you do. You need to know if this is a one-off, the church is getting a special deal, or if this is just the school sucks at running things. The Freedom from Religion Foundation told me they're going to send a letter to the district this week if they haven't done it already. And they're also going to file an open records request to get some of these answers. And what they said is that it does appear that the district is giving the church a sweetheart deal and that local taxpayers are essentially subsidizing the church's operation, violating the U.S. Constitution and Arizona's Constitution. So they are going to ask the district to immediately end its preferential treatment of the church. So good. I hope that leads to something. I got one last thing to show you with the story, which is that when I was looking at the contract that I happened to get access to, I noticed that one of the things that the church had to file with the school district was a copy of their insurance. You know, we need to know if you break something that you're going to pay for it. So we need to know you have insurance for it. But when I was looking at their insurance, guess what they have insurance for? This is fascinating to me. You could see at the top there, organizational theft. At the bottom, you got water damage, sewer damage. But look what I boxed off there for you. Ministry personnel dishonesty coverage. If your pastor is lying to you, the insurers will cover it for up to $5,000. And I just am so curious what that entails, even hypothetically. What does that include? Because, like, What if the pastor teaches from the book of Genesis? Does that count? I would cash in on that. So we'll see if this leads to a lawsuit. It should if they're doing this shady thing. We'll find out soon.